Okay. We have more than 140 bills, and apparently it's 140 and counting. And there's an awful lot of them in the energy sector, and some may be working at cross purposes with others. So we're going to work through a subcommittee system. The subcommittee system won't kill bills. They'll make the recommendations and put together, groupings so we can make sense out of this. There may be 30 to 40 energy bills, and like I said, you put all of them out there, and it's probably not going to work. So some bills will be going to the Energy Subcommittee. That's chaired by Senator Spruill with Senator Lucas and Senator Marsden. Where's Senator Marsden? Right there. And Senators Norman and Senator Newman. The Energy Subcommittee will meet at the conclusion of this, and that will be how it will be scheduled throughout the rest of the session. Some of the bills will go to the the Health Subcommittee, which will be chaired by Senator Barker, and you can also, work to get us scheduled after, the full committee meets. And that will consist of Senator Barker, Senator Edwards, and Senator Obenshain on the Health Subcommittee. There's an awful lot of bills, and I made a determination of trying to assemble everything here. Some we can merge, but a lot we can't. So that's where we are today. On the agenda, so far we have an interview with for the State Corporation Commission. Is Patricia West here? Oh yeah, let's do a roll. Excuse me. Let's do a roll call.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay. All right. Then the first order of business is Ms. West. You want to come up here?
I didn't need all my notebooks. I can give you a presentation, but I don't think you really want to hear it right now. We've got a lot of people waiting. Thanks.
Was she supposed to give a presentation? No. So we want to ask now. to- Entertain a motion that we find the candidate qualified to serve as
So
commissioner.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so second,
Mr. Chairman?
yeah,
So
that's
that-
it's standard,
Yeah, that's what I want to ask. Okay.
yeah. All right, all those in favor of finding the commissioner, current commissioner qualified to continue to serve, please vote aye. Yeah. Okay.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right, now, the interview for the Workers' Comp Commission is Robert Rappaport here? Yes, sir. Yes.
by him as being eminently
All right,
qualified for the
heard a
position.
motion. Second? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we find current Commissioner Robert Rappaport as qualified.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Senator Sproul?
since I'm the only one in here that is statewide, my constituents out there, it's cold in here. Can you turn the heat down some? The air conditioning down? My constituents out there, it's cold.
If we talk a little more, they'll warm up.
Looking out for my people.
Okay. We're going to move into the calendar. A lot of bills will be going to subcommittees or to others, but we will be hearing some bills today. First off, Senator Donovan, is Senator Donovan here? We are going to refer Senate Bill 364 to the Rules Committee because she's asked for a JLARC study, and that would be through them. Senator Surville, Senate Bill 634. Oh, okay. All right, as many favor the re-referring 364 to rules, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. Nay. Yeah. Senator Openshine? Yeah, okay.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right. Senator Surville has a bill that's, I guess, for lack of better, tax credits with respect to electric vehicles. And we are going to refer that to finance. So that will not be heard here. All right. All right, we need a roll call vote on that as well. All those in favor of reporting, referring to finance? Okay.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right. Senate bills, these utility easement bills. Senator Stanley's SB 302, Senator Peak's 539, and Senator Lewis's 794, and Reeves' Senate Bill 470 will be referred to the Energy Subcommittee chaired by Senator Sproul. Senate Bill 613 is Senator Suderline here. What is that? Is that the advertising bill? All right. Well, we'll let that go without objection by for the day. Next are the workers' comp bills. There are 4 bills that I have Senate Bill 9. Senator Cosgrove has Senate Bill 58, and Senator Vogel has Senate Bill 531. 531 and 58 are identical to my Senate Bill 9. What my motion would be to merge your two into mine.
So move, Mr. Chairman, remove
Okay.
the
well, we're
emergency
gonna
to Assembly
amend-
9.
Before we do that, we need to amend my bill.
Mr. Chairman, I believe also Senate Bill 381.
Yours, yes, and that's similar to mine. You want to merge it in as well? Okay. We have two amendments to mine. You want to read the amendments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 21, after "of," insert any of the following persons who have completed 5 years of service in their position as. On line 42, after completed, strike 12, insert 5. On line 42, After of, strike the word continuous.
So the net effect is we've have a 5-year service requirement for the heart disease presumption. We've reduced the service requirement from 12 years to 5, and they don't have to necessarily be continuous. Okay? All those in favor of adopting the amendments to Senate Bill 9, as well as ultimately Senate Bills 58, 531, and 381, say aye. Okay. Now we're going to need a roll call. No. Okay. One no, Senator Norman. We're going to need a vote, a roll call vote to merge Senate Bills 58, 531, and 381 into Senate Bill 9. All those in favor of doing that, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. All right.
Ayes
Okay.
15, no zero.
All right. Are those in the form that the bill is in now, are those, do you want to address it? Sure.
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Almost everybody here heard this bill last year.
Right.
It's pretty much the same bill with actually years, makes it even a better bill.
Thank you.
And be honest with you, I don't care who carries the bill,
Well,
as long as we pass the bill.
Can also, when that bill's reprinted, list the three as chief co-sponsors of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this bill simply adds cancer presumptions of brain cancer, colon cancer, and testicular cancer to the cancers that are presumed to be caused by the employment of firefighters in the performance of their duty. This has been a long time coming. JLARC studied it and recommended this happen. And I would just ask you, Mr. Chairman, if there's no opposition, I hope you would at least recognize all the firefighters who came up here today to support the bill.
Okay. All right, we'll start the clock now. Senator Vogel.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I'm super appreciative that the chairman is carrying the bill. And as you know, you all have heard this bill numerous times in the past. JLARC considered it last year after you referred it to JLARC and has recommended the bill. But most importantly, I just think that when we have so many people who put their lives on the line every day and whom we know have significant toxic exposures, that our willingness to pass this legislation, I think, is indicative of our willingness to accept responsibility and share that responsibility for their both physical health and hopefully later maybe you'll consider their mental health. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I just wanted to add that, the bill before you is consistent with the JLARC recommendations. This has been a long time coming. It's been a productive year in dialogue with industry, insurance, and those involved in the process. So thank you.
Senator Norman, hold on.
I heard the presentation in JLARC, and one of the things that has been perplexing to me is that it removes that requirement that in the line of duty, the firefighter has to come in contact with a toxic substance. And my question to you, does that open the door for claims for individuals that develop one of these cancers that has not had contact with a toxic substance in the line of duty?
Mr. Chairman, I would respond to the senator that part of removing the issue has been the case examples, for instance, pancreatic cancer. The Nexus, I had a case in a constituent, Kevin Fry, who passed away. His family battled for 18 months before settling for $15,000. He passed away the day he found out his family was covered, and it's this section of the code that causes the issue for the attorneys to wrangle versus actually covering firefighters under the presumption of law. So this has been a big hang-up for years, whereas cases after case after case comes up, and this becomes a part of denial where the family gets actually no help under presumption laws.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Norman.
My question is, in determining the compensability of it, how can anyone, based on your scenario, distinguish between whether the exposure came from in the line of duty or what it became with a part-time job that they had that put them in contact with toxic substance. Many police officers and firefighters do second jobs to complement their income. How do we distinguish between that as policymakers?
Mr. Chairman, I'd say it's part of the presumption that we're covering for these cancers based on the occupational exposure. I don't believe the amendment added the lines 44 staff through 43 for 44 on some of the language of participation in cleanup efforts. Is that,
Mr. Chairman,
as amended?
This is a little lawyerese, and I apologize for that up front. Where you have a situation that creates a presumption, you start with the assumption that, in fact, the cancer is compensable under this scenario. And in order to overcome that presumption, you enjoy the benefit or the advantage up front. You've got to rebut it. There's got to be some evidence that presented it to the contrary. And my question is, where you can't come up with evidence to prove or disprove, the commission's going to have to fall down on the presumption side.
So, Mr. Chairman, my clarification question to staff is, the bill is amended. Does it include lines 43 through 44 of my bill? No? Okay. That, Mr. Chairman, there would be language that would address the senator's question, should the committee choose to amend it. And Frank could read that language from lines 43 through 44 of my bill that may resolve some of his question.
Let me just remark that, you know, it's like Agent Orange in Vietnam. You don't know how close they were. There was a presumption that, you know, that they must have been near it. There's a good chance that if they were involved in firefighting, that, you know, they may have very well been near enough to a toxic substance that, you know, we ought to weigh the presumption on their side. And I think is the theory behind the change that you're seeing here before you today. Is that, would you say that's pretty much it?
Is that true?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I think so. And I think to address some of these questions, we probably ought to hear from the short list of
Sure.
people we have here. They can actually tell you about their
All
exposures
right.
to all these types of topics.
Senator Evan had a question, and then followed by Senator Surville.
Yeah, just for Senator McPike, it's my understanding that modern homes and buildings contain synthetic and plastic materials, and that they can include polycyclic or aromatic hydrocarbons, more than 100 chemicals, which are mostly carcinogens, and that when they're inhaled and absorbed, even through firefighting masks, that they result in a larger percentage of firefighters getting cancer than the general population. Isn't that right?
Mr. Chairman, I'd respond to the senator that that is correct.
And it's my understanding from other work that the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health is undergoing a study now of a registry of firefighters and cancer. And the reason they're doing that is because it's known that this is happening. And if we have to err on the side of safety for firefighters, I'd rather err on the side of safety than get Senator McPike's constituent $15,000 after however many months of fighting. So just a comment.
Mr. Chairman, question for the patron, I guess is the best way to frame this, or for Senator McPike. So, Senator, we use rebuttable presumptions throughout the code. In fact, my search of the code shows we use rebuttable presumptions at least 57 times so far, including, for example, in criminal cases, which I think is really pushing it when you're talking about taking away somebody's liberty with a rebuttable presumption. But is it fair to say that that by adding a rebuttable presumption to this scenario, we've sort of evaluated the equities of the situation in light of the sacrifice that these men and women put by putting themselves in harm's way around a lot of dangerous chemicals? We've made a policy choice that we think it's better to presume on the side of getting them the care they need, as opposed to making them prove something that's proven to be extraordinarily difficult. And that's the reason you have a rebuttable presumption here instead of current law, which hasn't worked.
Mr. Chairman, I'd say that's absolutely correct.
Okay, all right, we're gonna, each side will get 5 minutes of those who support the bill versus those who oppose it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Erin Rice, and I rise to say that I support this legislation on behalf of the 8,000-plus members of the Virginia Professional Firefighters. Just to further the comment made by Senator Norman, it's not a matter of if these firefighters are exposed to a toxic substance, it's a matter of every single call that they go on, they will be exposed to a certain type of toxic substance. So I will not tread on my time, and I will let the firefighters behind me explain why this bill is so critically important.
Good afternoon, Chairman Sasslaw, members of the State Commerce and Labor Committee. My name is Keith Johnson, the Fire Chief in Loudoun County. I represent the over 600 career fire and rescue personnel as well as 800 operational volunteers in our county and our great system. I also here represent the Virginia Fire Chiefs Association as the second vice president and all of our fire chiefs throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. I ask your support of Senate Bill 9, specifically adding the presumption of compensability for certain diseases to include the cancers of colon, brain, or testicular to the list of cancers that are pursued occupational disease under the Workmen's Compensation Act. The process should not require an unattainable standard of proof for the brave men and women who selflessly serve our communities. According to the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, JLARC's recent study, the statutory requirement to prove contact with toxic substance that caused a firefighter's cancer is unreasonable and possibly counter to the legislature's intent. The bill is supported by all the major fire and EMS stakeholder organizations throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia and we have met and taken a position on increased cancer coverage for firefighters, making it our #1 priority. On a personal level, I'm a fourth-generation firefighter. My mentor growing up was my father, Raymond, who was a firefighter and succumbed to brain cancer at 56 years old. You see, he was a firefighter all his life, past chief, county fire commissioner, serving his locality proudly until the death at his very young age. My children never got to know their grandfather because of his long, drawn-out death, but most importantly, the suffering and the financial hardship that suffering of cancer he caused by firefighting caused to my mom and family. When entry into burning buildings and rescue efforts have long placed firefighters in danger, exposure to unseen carcinogen substances has elevated cancer to a major occupational hazard for myself and my firefighters. Exposure not only occurs, as we heard, through inhalation, but also through skin absorption, even with the best personal protective gear. Despite all of our comprehensive cancer prevention efforts, including education and policy changes, Virginia's firefighters continue to receive the dreaded diagnosis of cancer at an alarming rate. Let's listen to the JLARC committee who stated, according to Johns Hopkins, it is unreasonable to require firefighters to document exposure to carcinogens that cause their particular cancer. Thank you.
Members of the committee, my name is Joe Miraboli. I'm a 12-year career firefighter in Prince William County. I'm also on the legislative committee for Virginia Professional Firefighters. For years, the VPFF has been attempting to fix Virginia's broken cancer presumption laws. Just recently, JLARC presented their report, and it validated many of our points, adding brain, colon, and testicular cancer permanently, removing the evidentiary requirement, meaning that a firefighter has to prove they were exposed to a specific chemical that caused their specific cancer. The CDC completed a report that studied thousands of firefighters going all the way back to the 1950s, and our cancer rates speak for themselves. They're many times the general population. So, and it also reduced the years of service from 12 years to 5 years. As a almost 13-year employee, I just became eligible to submit for cancer presumption. So I ask for your support for Senate Bill 9, and I thank all the patrons and co-patrons of those bills.
Next.
Good afternoon, Kurt Dietrich, Virginia Professional Firefighters. If I could ask all the firefighters that came today that support this bill, if they could please stand, show their support. We support Senate Bill 9. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, Wayne Huggins, State Police Association. This bill not only impacts firefighters, it also impacts the commercial vehicle enforcement officers and motor carrier safety troopers who work with the state police, so we very much support this as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Steve Weissman, and for the past 41 years, I've been a firefighter serving the citizens and visitors of the Commonwealth of Virginia. After my medical examination, I received a notification that my blood work was abnormal. I followed up with my physician, and in 2016, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. My biggest fear at the time was not me, but how do I tell my wife, my son, and my daughter that I have cancer. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when you're told that you have cancer, the first thing I wanted to know is when I was going to die. As a firefighter, I experienced cuts, bruises, minor burns, all as a result of my occupation. Each time I completed and submitted the required documentation of my injury and successfully filed for workers' compensation benefits, this time was no different. I submitted all the required documents and filed them within the current guidelines. A few weeks later, I received notification that my claim was denied. I was confused. Why was it denied? I met all of the requirements of the current cancer presumption bill. But the years of continuous service, one of the identified cancers, and I had documentation of my exposure to the toxic substances. As I moved forward through this process to appeal my denied claim for benefits, it became very complicated and confusing. My only option at that time was to obtain a lawyer and file the appeal. Moving forward through the process, I sought opinions of a subject matter expert. She's a research scientist at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore who specializes in occupational cancers. She provided testimony in my case that my years of experience to the off-gassing of toxins from combating fires was related to my diagnosis of cancer. Even with her expert testimony, my claim was still denied. I respectfully ask that you make the needed changes to the cancer presumption bill. Members of the committee, I'm a cancer survivor. Unfortunately, many firefighters before me don't have that same title. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. All right, those who are opposed.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Sproul.
before we get started, if you use the rule of 5 minutes, then we would adapt with two of those in opposed. But the previous ones who came up in support, one person shouldn't dominate all the time. That way, because you want everybody to have a say-so, but if one person dominate all the time, then everybody can't speak.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Chris Legault for the Virginia Municipal League. I'm not here to oppose the bill, but I do want to speak to a few things that have been going on about this bill that you need to know about. I've been part of these discussions for the past 6 months with the professional firefighters, the EMTs, the fire chiefs, and we've met regularly to discuss the best path forward to dealing with the conditions covered under the workers' comp presumption statute. These meetings were well attended always. They were honest and frank exchanges, robust discussions. The biggest takeaways that I had from these meetings were that the firefighters desired the certainty of an outcome and the timely receipt of benefits under the current act. Other states have recently adopted programs that could virtually guarantee those two goals by removing those conditions from the workers' comp system and paying for them under health insurance. No litigation, no adversarial confrontation, no trial, no fault. The receipt of a diagnosis, this is pretty important here, the receipt of a diagnosis by the firefighter or law enforcement officer of the covered condition is all that it would take to trigger the payment, usually within 10 to 14 days following the receipt of this diagnosis letter from a qualified physician, in accord with the stage of the cancer. They would have a dollar figure, a chart basically to say years of service, check, condition, stage 2, whatever cancer condition it may be, check, and the check would flow from that and nothing more. It took Colorado 18 months to work out the details, arrive at a fair, sound, and actuarially appropriate compensation figure. The fact that we couldn't get that done in 6 months should come as no real surprise whatsoever. But I think that the 2019 discussions were very productive for all concerned, and I hope that they will continue into this coming year. And by saying that, I'm not asking you to carry the bill over. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want anybody to be to misunderstand that. VML is committed to continuing these discussions going forward. I just want the committee to recognize something about the bill in front of you, Senate Bill 9 as amended, that shortening the length of service requirement from 12 years to 5, removing the toxic substance burden of proof requirement, and adding 3 more additional cancers does nothing, unfortunately, to improve the certainty of the outcome or the timely receipt or speed up the timely receipt of benefits. The bill just doesn't accomplish what is needed for the firefighters. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions if you have any.
It wasn't designed to be a cure for that. It was designed to deal with the administrative aspects
I understand.
of, you know,
That's the
how
reason
it
we're
all
not
came
opposing it.
about. Okay? Senator Marston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Legault, the change from 12 to 5 years, was that based on some kind of evidentiary analysis?
In the JLARC study, our 12-year standard was shown to be among the longest in the country, and most states are at 5 years for length of service requirement. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm John Hurd here today on behalf of the Virginia Self-Insurers Association and Metis Holdings, which is the company that oversees the administration of all the workers' comp and liability claims against VACO's risk pool members. I will be very brief and not repeat what Mr. Legault said, but I would like to amplify on a couple things. We asked for the JLARC study because of the uncertainty and the science in this area, and we are not opposing this bill this year, given what JLARC and Johns Hopkins have had to say. We also agree with the amendments that were placed on this legislation earlier. I will tell you that as Mr. Legault indicated, while we're not opposing this bill, it's important to understand that it does nothing really to speed up the claim determination or the payment, and I just want to explain that in a little more detail. Most of the employers and insurers that do workers' compensation now use what's known as reinsurance. And in that situation, the reinsurer is going to hold the employer or the insurance company's feet to the fire and make sure they do a full and complete investigation on the claim. That means obtaining all the medical records in these presumption claims, potentially back to birth of the claimant. So it doesn't happen very quickly. And we are at the mercy of the medical providers to provide us with those records when we ask for them. It can take up to 6 or 9 months to do this sort of thing. So please understand that that's not going to happen as a result of this. I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Legault. The meetings we had this summer and fall with the professional firefighters, the fire chiefs, the other organizations that were in the room were very productive, I think. And I think they ought to continue. And I think there can be something done in terms of a win-win situation with regards to this speed if we keep our heads to the grindstone, so to speak. Anyway.
You can put that bill in next year. Okay?
You may see it. You may see it if we can agree to it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That wraps it up. Senator Cosgrove?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This bill, again, as you know, was studied all last year. And I'll say, as I said last year, you can study, study, study. It's time to take the test. We need to protect these people, to protect us every single day. And I hope that it will be the pleasure of the committee to pass this bill.
All right. Any other business on this bill? Okay, I need a motion.
Second.
Yeah, and this has to go, obviously, to finance. So the motion would be to report and refer to finance. All those in favor, it's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported and referred to finance. All those in favor of the bill of doing that, just that, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. Killjoy.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Killjoy. All right. Bills reported and referred to finance. All right. Senator Bell, hold on, let me take care of the other members, the non-committee members. We have 741, Also workers' comp. 561, that's Senator Vogel. 741 is Senator McPike. And Senate Bill 924 is Senator Cosgrove. It deals with PTSD. I'll tell you, Senator McPike, go ahead and explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The other versions are slightly different in terms of defining PTSD. This bill outlines PTSD as a presumption. Senator Vogel, I'm not sure which version you have, but we'll go through. What Senate Bill 741 states out is in the presumption code to presume the incident of workplace injury of PTSD for certain conditions for first responders. For those who were here last year, you've heard this bill in Senate Finance as well. Since that time, I think we've experienced another community sort of larger incident with Virginia Beach. I know Virginia Beach is struggling with a lot of that aftermath as well. What we want to do is to put into our code and into policy that in these conditions, PTSD is now a presumption. And that, frankly, the folks I've talked to who suffer through PTSD, they want to get back on the job. This is really one of those circumstances where it impacts the families and the toll really impacts their loved ones, in addition to obviously their work performance over a long period of time. So there are many stories like that that we've got to consider when we ask our police, our firefighters to, in some instances, see what you would see in a war zone, unfortunately. And this is a means to identify the presumption, and happy to answer additional questions. It was portions of it covered within the JLARC report as well over the summer.
Senator Norman.
Senator McPike, the language in the summary indicates that a compensable event is if it results in the injury to or the death of a coworker. Does that injury or death to a coworker have to occur in the line of duty?
I believe lines 68 through 70 describe the factual findings of the critical event or events on the job.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Senator Serville.
I guess speaking to Senator Norman, I think if you look on line 64 through 66. Got it? All right, never mind.
And Mr. Chairman, we have a few folks to speak to it as well, if now would be the appropriate time.
Okay. Before we get to that, Senator Vogel and Senator Cosgrove, did you all, the bills are pretty close, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that my bill be rolled into Senator Vogel's bill. They're almost identical.
Okay, Senator Vogel has the
Make
lowest
us
number.
chief
Yeah.
co-patrons or.
And you would be, all right,
you want.
we have a motion
You're the
here.
patron.
We need to have a roll call vote on rolling Senate Bills 924 and 741 into Senate Bill 561.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll clarify those. So, Mr. Chair, if I may just clarify, the bill that Senator Cosgrove and I have is slightly different than the bill that Senator McPike has. His is a presumption bill, and ours is a bill that is a definition bill and means that PTSD can be moved under the statute that would allow for workers' comp to apply. And so they are slightly different, but trying to achieve the same goal, which is to say that we take very seriously their mental health. And this, in our bill, it has to happen in the line of duty, and there have to be qualifying events that occur after or prior to the diagnosis of the trauma. So that would be the distinction between his bill and our bill.
Staff says that we can have two separate bills in this. So the motion would be to roll Senator Cosgrove's
924.
924 into Senator Vogel's
561.
561.
Yes.
All those in favor, record their vote as a yea. Those opposed, no. Okay.
That's 15-0.
Senator Vogel? Okay, you want to step through this, just,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to trespass on those speakers who are here who I
Okay.
know have really compelling statements to make, but I think I already clarified the difference between
Right.
my bill and his bill, and why I think that PTSD is a valid consideration and really important to have the opportunity for treatment as part of someone's mental health. Thank you.
all right.
Just very briefly, Mr. Chairman, I just
Sure.
want to add a comment. I was at the Virginia Beach site, after that tragedy.
Right.
And those law enforcement officers and the EMS personnel were messed up.
Right.
And, you can imagine the folks that responded to the Pentagon on 9/11.
Right.
Those types of things jump out at you. But it's also, police officers and firefighters witnessing a dead infant or a extremely bloody accident. Those things can stay with you for a lifetime.
Senator Marsden?
Senator Cosgrove, if I could, one of the things that I found interesting, that the diagnosis would come from one professional and list clinical social worker. Could someone go to a clinical social worker with no experience with these kinds of disorders and get a diagnosis and have that held up as valid?
I would have, Senator Vogel, do you know the answer to that?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll deal with it there. We may ultimately have to wind up merging the bills after all, but the motion would be to report and refer to finance, okay? And any further amendments that we have to do, we can do them there. All right, is there a motion to report and refer these three bills, Senate bills 741, which is a separate bill, and
Mr. Chairman?
And the merger of 924 into 561.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I believe they were working on an answer to my question.
Okay, all right, well, I guess we need to have people speak for and against, okay, before we do that, all right? Okay.
Good afternoon. Once again, my name is Erin Rice. On behalf of the Virginia Professional Firefighters and their 8,000 members and families, we support this legislation. And Senator Marsden, to you, Mr. Chairman, to your question, it does define what a mental health professional is, which says board-certified psychiatrist or psychologist licensed under Title 54.1. Who has experience diagnosing and treating post-traumatic stress disorder. So there will be some requirement to have some qualifications to make that diagnosis. I just will say that there are some differences between Senator McPike's bill.
Yes.
And it is our preference to have this as an occupational disease defined in the code and not in the presumption statute. See?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Wayne Huggins, State Police Association. In the interest of time, I'm not going to sit here and go through incident after incident after incident. A couple have been named. It creeps up on you in a far, far less dramatic way in many occasions that I could sit here and cite by rhyme or verse. Back in my day, when I was a young trooper in 1970, we were expected to be tough. We could take anything, we could handle anything, and anything less than that was unacceptable professional behavior. It's as simple as that. In fact, you would be relieved of duty and in some cases terminated if you didn't belly up and be tough. Well, as a society, we have matured and have grown and understand that it's not like that. And we encourage our young troopers, female, male, today to ask for help. Indeed, we go to them and offer help when they've been involved in these incidents. This is long, long overdue, and I urge you to support this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Ed Rhodes, representing the Virginia Ambulance Association and also the Virginia Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads in support of Senate Bill 561. This bill covers the emergency medical services people, both salaried and volunteer. You can go back to Virginia Beach because both entities operated at that situation. The rescue squads and the paid services see a lot more than you'll ever even imagine what they see. They see the patient from the start to the end and work on them in the back of the ambulance trying to save them. So we appreciate your support for Senate Bill 561.
Next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee. My name is John Wright, President of the Frederick County Professional Firefighters, Local 4145 in Winchester, representing over 110 firefighters on the job there. We rise in support of the bill. This bill is critically important to protecting the health and safety of our firefighters as well as our law enforcement officers. 122 firefighters and 18 EMTs died from suicide in 2019 alone, according to the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance, surpassing the number of line of duty deaths for the 6th year in a row. A 2019 study found not only are first responders more likely to die by suicide than on duty, but rates of depression and PTSD among firefighters have been found to be as much as 5 times higher than that of the general population. In fact, the National Fire Protection Agency, NFPA, says a growing body of research is showing the contributions in behavioral health issues ending in suicide. And society's perception of first responders is that we are invincible, bulletproof, without weakness. And while we are strong-willed and prideful in what we do, we are also human beings. If you equate your brain or your heart to a sponge, there's only so much that we can absorb, or it can absorb, until it overflows and you can't take any more. What we do and what we see on duty is normal for us professionally, but is not normal for us as human beings. This bill has the opportunity to be life-saving and lower that number of suicides. Thank you, and I ask you to just move the bill forward.
Okay. Next. And
Be brief. Keith Johnson, representing Virginia Fire Chiefs Association again. We also support Senate Bill 561 and covering the PTSD. The world has changed. As a fire chief and all of our fire chiefs I represent, the world has changed. We dealt with broken bones, cuts, bruises, and now we're dealing with injuries to the mind. And it's a far different thing as a fire chief to deal with. Not only is it hard to see, but you can't predict it. Just like the gentleman before me said, a year ago in my locality, we did experience a suicide from a firefighter. And whether that was caused by PTSD, we don't know. We didn't have a warning sign of that. But we're seeing that throughout the Commonwealth as a large contributor to our firefighters dying and dying on duty. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Down to 11 seconds.
Jeremy Mader, Loudoun County Career Firefighters Association. We had a firefighter medically retire from us 8 years ago due to PTSD. He almost killed himself going through the process of trying to get medically covered. He wasn't covered initially by the county. They denied him coverage for it because it wasn't a workers' compensation issue. We believe if PTSD was recognized as a work-related injury, he would not have suffered as much as he had trying to get it treated. We hope he passes PTSD bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Andy Reinhardt here on behalf of the Virginia Trial Lawyers. We represent injured workers. I've been doing this for a long time, past president of the National Organization of Lawyers who represent injured workers. We support 100% the concept of this bill without any question. However, we believe the problem can be fixed in a much less complex fashion. Here's the problem with the law today. If a gunman were to come into this room and no one was shot, but all of you up here suffered stress, PTSD from that incident without being physically injured, you would have a cite claim for sudden shock and fright. However, if one of these men or women in uniform who was a hero, it saved your life in that incident, but they were not physically injured, they would not have a stress claim because that's part of their job. So we believe a fix to this is just a simple revision to the law that is not complex, that says that these heroes in uniform should simply be treated like other workers in Virginia. And we have a draft that will say that in about one sentence. And I have nothing but respect for the EMS, firefighters, police troopers, and all the folks that support the bill, but we believe it can be handled much more elegantly. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to oppose this measure. I'm John Hurd, again, on behalf of the Virginia Self-Insurers Association and also
You're
Medicine.
opposed to all three bills?
Yes, and for different reasons, quite
Right.
frankly, because there are differences between the
Okay.
bills. If I've got to pick and choose, and I'm going to have problems with both, clearly, but if I've got to pick and choose, I would prefer the bill that's not a presumption. So I agree with Aaron on that. If you look at the bill specifically, I'd like you to draw your attention to the qualifying events section. There's a lot of stuff in here that can be very broadly interpreted, and they don't appear to make much sense in the distinctions they create. For example, a first responder could see a 17-year-old that has died of a heart attack. Under the language of this bill on line 38, that would be a qualifying event. Let's say that 17-year-old has a heart attack the next day, which happened to be his 18th birthday. It's going to treat those two situations completely differently. I'd like to know what dies upon admission to a hospital means. Dies precisely at the time of admission? How about right after admission? How about after surgery while fighting for their life in the intensive care unit? Depending on the answer to these questions, the PTSD may or may not be compensable under this bill. Additionally, some of the language used in describing qualifying events could be subject to differing interpretations. For example, the language on lines 38, 39, and 40 talks about views or witnesses a death or injury. Does that mean a first responder could receive workers' comp benefits for PTSD if they simply watched or listened to a video of an awful event or heard it occur over some sort of communication system? I don't know the answer to that. Now, lines 66 through 95, and I addressed this on the previous bill I testified on, that's not in accordance with the rest of the Virginia Workers' Compensation Act on the employer's obligation to accept or deny cases. For practical purposes, a claimant's medical history simply cannot be accurately and fully discovered within 30 days. If this provision passes, every defense attorney will advise their clients to deny these claims immediately upon receipt, so a full investigation into the mental health history of the claimant can be obtained. Lines 66 through 95 will lead to more denials and increased litigation that could be avoided by eliminating this requirement, which is not found elsewhere in the Act. Another reason that the proposed requirements to this subsection don't make sense in Virginia's workers' comp system is because the use of reinsurance, and I've already discussed that and I won't do that again, but that's the same rationale. There's really no way to speed things up in workers' comp and still allow for due process. From a fiscal standpoint, the JLARC report, based on the work by Oliver Wyman, estimates that the 1 year per employee volunteer cost of adding a PTSD presumption will be somewhere in the range of $91 to $754. That's a huge range, and it gets real expensive real quick. JLARC estimated that based on the VEC data and an estimate of 65% of the firefighters in Virginia being volunteers, I think you could be talking about a total population of folks covered by this of somewhere around 62,000. And when you do the math on that, it gets real high real quick. This proposed legislation really has some serious problems that we need to take a very close look at, and I would ask you guys not to support this.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Mr. Chairman, down here. John,
Yes, sir.
my understanding from talking to psychiatrists, and I've had some experience with PTSD from clients and whatnot, that you have to have, according to the psychiatrists, to have PTSD, you have to have had an actual real threat to your life, not watching a video. Would you agree or disagree?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm not a
That's my
psychiatrist.
experience from what psychiatrists have told me. Okay, thanks.
Chris.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Chris Legault for VML. In the interest of time, I'll just incorporate John's remarks as my own and have additional remarks to be made in Senate Finance if the bill goes forward.
Okay.
We would urge you to defeat the bill.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Jeremy Bennett with the Virginia Association of Counties. Just to clarify, we're not opposed to the intent of this bill. We want to support first responders in our localities. We just have concerns for the reasons stated regarding the fiscal impact.
But you're not opposed?
Not opposed to the intent, sir, no.
Right. All right, the motion would be to, well, since they're separate bills, first we'll do Senator Vogel's bill, in which Senator Cosgrove will be listed as chief co-sponsor. All right, the motion I need to hear is to report and refer to finance.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded that the bill 561 containing 924 be reported and re-referred to finance.
Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Okay, the next bill to vote on. You're welcome, thank you, is Senator McPike's 741. The motion again would be report and refer to finance. All those, I need a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And a second.
Second.
It's been moved and second that Senate Bill 741 be reported and referred to finance.
Mr. Chairman, could I say something really quick?
Senator Surville.
Two things. I'm not sure Senator Marsden ever got to answer his question, but to answer his question, licensed clinical social workers are allowed to render diagnosis about psychiatric injuries in the Commonwealth of Virginia if they're licensed. Number one. Number two, Mr. Chairman, the substitute that was handed to me by some of the attorneys over there is a much simpler way of dealing with this, and I would just encourage, as this bill moves through the process, that we have some lawyers look at it, because what it actually does is reverses a Virginia Court of Appeals case from 2017 involving, it was called Hess versus Virginia State Police, 68 VA App 190, and I just think some lawyers ought to take a peek at it before it comes out of committee. I would encourage that. Thank you.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the bill 741 be, Senate Bill 741 be reported and referred to finance. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. All right.
Ayes
the
12,
bill
noes
is
3.
Reported and
Thank you.
referred. Okay. I've had a request on Senate Bills 251, 252, and 862, the pharmacy benefits manager bills, to go by for the day, but I think perhaps a better idea would be to put them in the Health Subcommittee chaired by Senator Barker, and that's where, I don't think I need a motion for that. No, so we'll just put that in your subcommittee, Senator Barker, and you'll inform everybody as to the time and place. Okay? All right, so those Senate Bills 251, 252, and 862, Senate Bills 251, 52 are Senator Edwards, Senate Bill 862 is Senator Pillions. They're in the subcommittee. Senate Bill 424 and Senate Bill 573. Senate Bill 424 is Senator DeStaff, and Senate Bill 573 Donovan. They've both requested that the bills go by for the day. All right. Under the category of other health insurance bills, Senate Bill 216, Senator Suderline, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you also for allowing my other bill to go by for the day while we work on that. Senate Bill 216 is a bill that should be familiar to you all. It's a bill that we passed out in a pretty strong bipartisan vote last year when it had a different patron. What it does is it authorizes health carriers to offer catastrophic health insurance plans to individuals, provided that those plans are in compliance with the Affordable Care Act. And so when you look at the bill, it's a pretty short bill, but the significant part are the federal law citations in there that dictate exactly what needs to be in there.
Is this a bill, was this vetoed last year?
Yes.
Is-
But it
is
was
this
after it
different?
came out of this chamber 38-2.
Is it different
I'm not aware of any difference between it.
All right. All right. I don't think this has to go to finance, does it?
I don't think so. Mr. Chairman, this bill came out with substantial support out of the committee and only 2 dissenting votes on the floor in 2019, and consequently, I would move to report the bill, sir.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Evans to speak to the bill.
Yeah, I believe I was one of the 2 last year in the Senate, if I remember correctly.
Indeed, you were.
Yeah, I wanted to just refresh my memory as to why. So these insurance plans that you're talking about, what do they typically cover?
Well,
Worst case or best case?
so it's catastrophic insurance, which is something that most of us are familiar with. It's basically a high deductible plan. And so according to the federal law that's cited in there, it dictates exactly what every plan that's offered now that we're under the Affordable Care Act. And so that has 3 primary care visits a year, and then there's a series of other services such as ambulatory services and such.
I guess, Mr. Chairman?
Senator Eben.
I guess what I'm asking is, what is the deductible at what is the typical deductible or the lowest allowable deductible under one of these catastrophic plans?
I'd say approximately $6,500.
$6,500. Yeah, and I would just point out, if I might, Mr. Chairman, the reason I oppose the bill is I don't like people feeling if they have insurance when they don't. $6,500 is not as bad as some of the higher end ones, but my understanding, if I might ask one more question, is if I could ask the senator, what is the lowest or the highest deductible that you're aware of on these kinds of plans?
I don't have that number in front of
Okay.
me. What I would say is, we currently already allow 30-year-olds to purchase these plans in Virginia, and we also allow folks under a hardship waiver. But I would suggest that there's some folks that might be 31, 32, or other parts of life, that this actually might be what's the best choice for them. And it's not just catastrophic insurance. When I was 22, that was the best plan for me. It was the best plan for me until I got married at 26, and then things changed. At that time, I would not have had the catastrophic insurance that I had at one point offered through the Commonwealth. Actually, when it wasn't as exhaustive in the services as provided now, because it would have to be under the federal law requirements of the ACA, which, I'm happy to read through them if you'd like, but I didn't think, thank you, Senator Spruill, I didn't think you wanted to hear them.
No, I'll just state that I remain one of the 2.
Mr. Chairman.
I have a question. What was the governor's reason for vetoing it?
Didn't comply with it. Mr. Chairman?
He did not share that with me.
Mr. Chairman, I might be able to answer this question.
Senator Eben?
Yeah, no.
Best I recall is in his veto statement, the governor talked about the cost of the insurance pool by taking these folks out of the pool as one of the components. And I don't know if he mentioned with the higher end plans, what the kind of security it gives to people to think they're insured and then to find out that they have such a high deductible. I didn't realize that they're as low as $6,500 though, or how common that is.
Senator Edwards?
Yes, as I recall, back 45 years ago, President Ford tried this, and it didn't work because the coverage is narrow and the expenses would be very high for what you're getting. And the reason I think the governor, as Senator Eben mentioned, vetoed is because under the Affordable Care Act, the idea is to get the prices down for everybody and have everybody as much covered as possible rather than a narrow plan where the coverage is very limited, because in that case, the prices can get very high. So I think that's basically what happened.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, we heard this last year, the exact same thing. Nothing changed. And we passed it out 38-2. So I don't know why we try to cover up why not to vote for it. We heard this in detail, the exact same thing. The exact same thing. We passed out 38-2. Mr. Chairman, so I'm like to renew the motion that this thing be approved and sent it on out.
All right, Senator Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 6,500, for clarification, is that an individual or a family?
That'd be individual. Most of the
Individuals.
folks that are going to be buying this plan are going to be individuals.
But if it were a family, it could be 13,000 or much higher.
Possibly. But the folks that are going to be buying this plan primarily, as you look at who's buying it now, are individuals. And I would suggest that generally we sometimes think we need to raise the age on who we trust to buy certain things. This is a product that we allow people under 31 years old to buy, but for some reason we don't trust people over 31 years old to have the discernment to buy this. I mean, it's just completely backwards in everything else we do.
All right, let's hear from those who
Mr.
support
Chairman.
the bill and those
Mr.
who
Chairman.
Senator Bell.
Well, one final question. This doesn't include bronze, silver, or gold type plans. Does it include preventative care?
It has 3 primary visits offered in there as required by federal law. So there's nothing, regardless of how we feel about the ACA, this meets all the requirements of the ACA. And I can get through more of the technicalities of the bill, but, I think Senator Spruill made it clear, this would go through the administration as well.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm Doug Gray on behalf of the Virginia Association of Health Plans. Let me just make sure
You're for.
I'm not making a position on the bill. I just want to make sure you get the facts right. The benefits are the same for this and every other plan in the ACA. No different whatsoever. The cost sharing is the max out-of-pocket amount, which is $8,100 today. So that's what your cost share is. So those are just the 2 basic facts. All right. So it's the max out-of-pocket is what the deductible ends up being, and the benefits are exactly the same. The actuarial value is the same as a bronze plan. So those are the basic facts.
Good afternoon, Chairman. My name is Freddie Mejia. I'm with the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis. We are against this bill. These bills, the catastrophic plans rather, are really geared towards younger, healthier individuals, and that's why they are approved for that subsection of individuals in the ACA, opening up to everyone, regardless of health status, could really some medical bankruptcy and some issues with some consumer protections would really be a concern of ours. Thank you.
All right, I should have asked. Are there those first in favor of the bill? We're all opposed. You're all what? We're all opposed. All opposed, okay. Okay, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Sarah Cariano with the Virginia Poverty Law Center. For the reasons already stated, we also oppose this. These catastrophic plans are constructed for individuals under 30, and that is what keeps the rates on them lower. Once we allow individuals over 30 into these plans, the rates will go up. They will be the same as the bronze, and so now they're not giving a less expensive product to anybody. Additionally, the state would have to submit a 1332 waiver and prove that there would be budget neutrality on it. Once the rates go up, the tax credits from the federal government go up, and it's very unlikely that it would be a budget neutral proposal. So it'd be a lot of work to submit a 1332 that likely wouldn't be approved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Newman.
So if someone can't afford their bronze plan and this lowers the cost and they can't afford this, are you opposed to them getting this plan?
Can you restate that one
Sure,
more time?
be glad to. If someone can't afford a bronze plan,
Yes.
got that?
Yes.
Someone can afford it under a catastrophic, gives them something instead of nothing.
Right.
Are you in favor of them being able to buy something, got it, instead of nothing?
I would hold that if we allow individuals over 30 and other folks who are higher risk to enter the catastrophic risk pool, this would not be less expensive than a bronze plan, and so they wouldn't be able to afford either.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Newman.
can't they make that choice instead of you?
Well, the federal government has made that choice right now. They set this specifically up to protect younger consumers, so we'd be removing that protection for younger consumers. And by making that choice, they're driving up the risk pool for everyone else, so the plans become more expensive for everyone else. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kelly Fitzgerald, and I'm representing the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and we are opposed to this legislation.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Becky Bowers-Lanier. I'm with the Virginia Hemophilia Foundation and the Hemophilia Association of the Capital Area. individuals with chronic conditions who have expensive care, and ours are pre-existing, have no choice when they get hemophilia. When, as has been mentioned, with these catastrophic plans that are attractive for younger people and for others who would like to have them, that does decrease the community risk and therefore makes it more expensive for people who have the more expensive conditions to purchase health insurance. If we had a reinsurance plan maybe at the state level, that might be different. Right now, we do not.
I'm Dr. Harry Kwanter. I'm a pediatric rheumatologist and the chair of the Virginia Chapter of the Arthritis Foundation's Advocacy Committee. On behalf of the Virginia Chapter of the Arthritis Foundation and the National Arthritis Foundation, we are opposed to this bill for all the reasons mentioned.
I'm not going to vote for it. When we get these people, professionals telling us that. No. All right. Need a motion.
Move the report, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of reporting Senate Bill 216, vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 8, nays 7.
Bill passes, is reported.
Thank you.
Reported. Okay, Senate Bill 234, Senator Chafin, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 234, give you a little bit of history. This is back in 2010, JLARC estimated that implementing a statewide plan for school divisions for health insurance for school employees would save somewhere between $44 and $66 million annually. In 2013, DHRM conducted a study, and when that actuarial study was conducted, it didn't indicate that there would be any significant impact on the state plan. Later in 2015, DHRM conducted a complete review of public health employee plans, healthcare plans, and it indicated there could actually be a savings to the state plan. In 2016, legislation that I had passed, but it didn't go with the state plan. What that legislation did, it went under the local option, and it allowed another plan to be considered and to be created. Ultimately, that plan failed to fund because it felt the numbers of people fell below 5,000, which was the number that was needed to support it. So we're back here again today. This bill. Currently, we've got 20 states out there that have their school divisions covered, either required or allow school divisions to participate in statewide insurance pools. Those states, out of those 20 states, we've got 2 that neighbor Virginia, Tennessee and North Carolina. Of course, it's competitively hard to have teachers in those areas in Virginia because they can get a better deal, you know, working in North Carolina or working in Tennessee on their health insurance. So this bill, Senate Bill 234, is an election bill. It would allow localities to participate.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yes, and the VA supports this bill. I'm told it's their #1 initiative. Kathy Bircher is here to comment on it if the committee would like to hear.
Are there any questions of the sponsor before we get to the general public? There aren't. Okay. All those supporting the bill, step forward and transmit.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. We are very grateful to Senator Chafin for his now 10-year effort to allow our school divisions to participate in a competitive way with other school divisions, particularly those of the 7 largest school divisions, when it comes to health insurance benefits for school employees. The most recent study that the VA conducted on health insurance, we do one every other year, saw an increase of over 10% in both the employee and the employer cost of health insurance. We are seeing that mirrors what we're seeing across the country with higher and higher rates for our employees and our premiums. Just so you're aware, the General Assembly, through Standards of Quality, does fund the prevailing cost for healthcare premiums for all of the Standards of Quality positions, and so the General Assembly actually offsets some of those costs. You heard the Senator describe this 2010 work, 2013 work, 2015 work, 2016 work. What we saw through the building of a plan similar to the state plan through his legislation in 2016 is that as the costs from the actuaries rolled out, the larger school divisions were able to negotiate better rates, and so that they opted out. And as those very large pools of employees opted out, the costs went up and up, and further and further up, which made it cost prohibitive for our very small and rural school divisions. The VEA has long fought to allow school employees to be included in the state employee plan. This is another effort after years and years of study where we really look at the opportunity to allow school divisions to elect in, again, offsetting some of those costs with the state funding through the Standards of Quality. And we are hopeful this is the year that we'll open up this opportunity for our small and rural school divisions in particular. And we hope that you support the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm John Suswick. I'm with Virginia Professional Educators. We also support this bill for the reasons stated, and we're grateful to Senator Chafin for promoting the issue. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's been the bill has been requested by Senate Finance, so the motion would be to report and refer to Finance.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 234 be reported and referred to Finance. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. Bill's reported. And now we have Senator Chafin, while you're up there at the podium, Senate Bill 233.
Yes, sir. Senate Bill 233 was requested by the State Corporation Commission's Bureau of Insurance. Last year, I brought Senate Bill 1222, and it was a bill that allowed for the biennial renewal of the license of insurance agencies and agents. That bill was enacted with an effective date of January 1, 2021. This is just a housekeeping bill that goes back and makes some technical amendments to the language of the bill. Prior to the effective date, it would remove language regarding the frequency of renewals to conform to the biennial renewal provisions for last year's bill.
All right. Any questions of the patron? So essentially, it is a housekeeping bill.
I would move to report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 233 be reported. All those in favor record their vote yea. Those opposed, nay.
That's 15-0.
Thank you, Mr.
Bills are
Chairman.
reported. Thank you, Senator Chafin. All right, and all the other people want Senator Edwards, and then Senator Barker. Senator Edwards, you have Senate Bill 250. Say bye for the day. All right. Okay. Is it necessary to put it in your stuff or just leave it bye for the day?
Mr. Chairman, I don't actually have this drafted, but
it should be, there's an amendment, but Senate Bill 250 is a Medigap insurance for individuals under 65, 62 to 65. Medicare doesn't cover everything, and this would cover health care for those under 65 who can start on Medicare beginning at 62 because of disability. There's an amendment, I don't have an amendment drafted, except for this. Lindsay can explain it better than I can.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Lindsay Berry-Winter, representing Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield. We support this bill. We think it's a great thing to expand coverage for MedSup for those the age of 65 and under with a disability. But we do have some technical changes that actually strengthen the bill. The first one is, do you want me to read through them all?
Yeah, go ahead.
The first one is to basically mandate all that offer coverage for MedSup, including trusts, to offer this coverage, and so that expands consumer choice. We need to move the effective date from October 1, 2020 to January 1, 2021. That has to do with filing, rate reviews, timelines. We already support the language, having the separate rating pool. And then in section F, we do think it's important to try to keep costs down, but we do think it's important that carriers are required to pay some fee to brokers. So we added insurers and insurance agents shall be prohibited from charging a percentage fee. And then, however, insurers and insurance agents must pay a minimum of a $25 flat annual administrative fee. And the only other addition is specifying the plan offering. And so we modeled it after Texas. Texas requires Plan A be offered at a minimum. So we think it strengthens the intent of the bill.
So are there amendments?
There's the amendment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if the clerk has them, can I move the amendments in a block? If they want them in a block, or whatever the appropriate motion
Can
is?
you read the amendment first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 17, after policies, insert or certificates, including policies or certificates issued on an individual or group basis, and policies or certificates issued through a group trust. On line 31, in two places where it says October 1, 2021, or 2020, strike that and replace with Jan 1, 2021. And then in subsection...
Both of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then in subsection F on line 39, strike insurance and insert insurers and insurance. So that would read insurers and insurance agents. And then after however, on line 40, strike everything, the sentence after however, and insert insurers and insurance agents must pay a minimum of a $25 flat annual administration fee in accordance with, and continues on line 41.
All right, is there a motion on the amendments to adopt? All right, second. All right. Is there a second? All right.
Missing one amendment. The last one. The last one, you need to specify the plan offerings. So Plan A be offered at a minimum.
Last paragraph.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Do you know how to do that? I'm not following.
Mr. Chairman, there would be a new subsection G that would come in on line 42. We don't have the language yet, but the concept is that the bill would add plans, would require a single plan, like Plan A, to be offered. So without doing some further research, we can either
let it go by or put it in subcommittee?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the language that they're
Right.
talking
What,
about.
can I make a suggestion? I think we get, the gist of what can we let it go by for the day?
Sure.
Senator Edwards, and then we'll take it up, next week. And that way we can get all the alignments, amendments up and right before us.
Sure.
Okay?
That'd be good.
All right. So without objection, Senate Bill 250 will go by for the day. Senator Barker has asked that SB 280 go by for the day, and Senator Hashmi has asked that Senate Bill 404 go by for the day. Pardon? Yes, Senator Bell. Okay, so John, that will go by for the day. Senator Bell, you're up. Senator Edwards, your bill's not in jeopardy. Just need to get the paper, not yet. You know who had the answer to the health care problem?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to ask that you strike SB 265, and I'll explain if you like now or after it's done.
And he said we can't afford it. Go ahead.
Yeah, the SB 265, part of the, looking into this issue is a full presumption on the DMV and correctional officers. After some negotiation and research, I believe the best step forward is to do SB 345, which is a presumption on only infectious diseases, much less expensive.
So what do you want to do with 265? Strike
I
it?
ask that you strike it.
Okay. All right, it's been moved in second that we strike Senate Bill 265. That would require a recorded vote. All those in favor of striking the bill, vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
That's 15-0.
All right, you want to do 345 now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 345 adds the presumption of disability for infectious diseases for correctional officers and full-time sworn members of the Division of Department of Motor Vehicles. To get this presumption, they would have to have a documented occupational exposure to blood or bodily fluids, and if they have that, then they're presumed to have contracted the viruses through that exposure. What we have today is there are 14 types of peace officers in Virginia, and 2 are not covered by any presumption. And that would be the correctional officers. We have 6,500 authorized. The total's around 5,800 at any given time. There's 72 DMV officers that are impacted. The correctional officers, frankly, have a very difficult job. They house and take care of and oversee many of the most dangerous people in Virginia and keep us all safe. They have a very high stress job in a difficult environment. I want to point out the turnover of this population. Within a 3-year time frame of us hiring, training, recruiting, we've lost 75% of those correctional officers that we brought on. We bring on 1,100 a year. Right now, I think we're spending a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money, to do the wrong thing. By having to constantly recruit for this huge turnover, constantly put them through a 5-week course, run a physical, and spend money recruiting, we're spending $20 million a year. I repeat that, $20 million a year. There are many other, again, law enforcement positions where, frankly, these correctional officers can go to, county sheriff, ABC, fish and game. And I don't want to take anything away from anybody else, but they can go to these other jobs, make more money, and have the full presumption day one. This is an injustice where these folks are working hard in difficult environments, and frankly, with HIPAA protections, they don't know who has hepatitis C and who has HIV. But yet they're expected to sometimes in the performance of their duties have bodily contact and exposure. They're expected to try to use life-saving measures, which also would give them exposure. I served for almost 26 years in the United States Air Force, and I've been in combat zones, and there were many things I worried about when I was in those zones. But one thing I never worried about is if I got hurt, would my family be taken care of? These folks are putting their lives at risk every day for us, and I believe we owe them the security of knowing if they get exposed to one of these diseases, we're going to take care of them. Mr. Chairman, there's a fiscal impact study on this that came back. It's a preliminary. It's frankly a small amount of money. I put in a budget amendment for it, a higher amount. I put in for 50 grand. This only shows that it would be less than that. If we can only lower our losses of these correctional officers just by 1 or 2%, it would more than pay for what this would cost us. If we were to get a 10% reduction, that's $2 million for something that's going to cost us $20,000 a year. It's the right thing to do, and I humbly ask the committee to approve this measure. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions of the patron on 345?
Mr. Chairman,
All
I
right.
do know we have some folks here. who
Right,
like to speak.
and I was going to get to that. All right. Those who are in favor of the bill, you want to step forward, give us your name, and as quickly as possible, your positions?
My name is Don Bell. I'm with the National Coalition of Public Safety Officers. I'm also a 27-year veteran of the Department of Corrections.
Okay.
This bill is much needed. It's been needed for a long time. And as the senator said, every day these folks are facing these kind of exposures and whatnot. To be covered would ease the minds of a lot of these folks. It would go a long way to help them see their profession as a profession that cares about their safety and about the safety and the well-being of their families. We encourage the members of the committee to support this bill.
Next.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. My name is David Beckles, 12 years in the Department of Corrections. I ask that you support this bill because I know it's never been brought up in this way, but we're in our geographical area of employment, we are the first responders. We're the ones, the last to leave if there's a fire. We have to come in contact and give life-saving measures for anyone who's injured, and all the atrocities that occur in the greater society occur within the confines of the penitentiary, and we are the first responders. I thank you for your time.
Okay. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is David Matthews. I'm a correctional officer with State Farm Correctional Center, currently assigned to the Security Care Unit at MCV Hospital. I ask you to wholeheartedly support this bill. As Senator Bell said, it is of our very job to maintain safety and security of these facilities. When you have that many people in that relatively small area for that long a period of time, timbers will flare, there will be altercations, blood will be drawn. We are expected, if not prevent these altercations, but to mitigate them and to stop them, which means hands-on getting involved. The sweat and the blood from those fights is now on us. I personally, while making rounds, have been spat on. We, as was stated, the TIPA regulations, it is not our job, it's not our duty, it's not our responsibility. We don't have the right to know what these individuals have until we find out that we too have it. Again, thank you for your time. I ask you to please support this bill.
You're supporting the bill.
I am. Mr. Chairman, Sean McGowan with the Virginia Police Benevolent Association. I represent 6,000 law enforcement professionals in the state of Virginia, including members from corrections and DMV. Okay. And it's one of our goals to try to standardize benefits among all law enforcement in the state, and this bill is working toward that goal. So we hope you support it.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I am Joe Hill. I'm Assistant Commissioner with the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles over our Law Enforcement Division, and I ask for your support of this bill for our law enforcement officers who encounter some of the same risks as other law enforcement officers in the state. Thank you.
Okay. Finance, I know. Senator Marson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a comment and a motion.
It has to go to finance, by the way, so include that in your
I understand
motion.
it needs to go to finance, and probably that's a good thing. We keep nibbling around the edges of the problem here with these bills. The fact is we don't pay our correctional officers anywhere near what their service should require. I move that we refer this bill, we pass the bill and refer it to finance.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 345 be reported and referred to finance. All of those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay. All right.
That's 14, noes 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think that's it. All right. George, do you have you nailed down a room, or you just to put out the announcement after you do it?
There being only 3 of us who are on this subcommittee, but we had amazing difficulty finding a time, but 4 o'clock on Thursday appears to be the time that the 3 of us can be there, so
All
we will,
right.
and
The
we don't have a
Health
room yet, but we'll
Subcommittee
set
will
that up.
meet on Thursdays at 4 o'clock. Do you have a room? I didn't hear.
Don't have a room yet.
No, but they will. And the Energy Subcommittee will meet following this, I assume, here in this room. Okay? All right, with that, the committee will rise.